Hat, sunglasses, Pepsi, notes, sources, thick skin, check. You already know. Let's go. Golden Bluted is a college football YouTube channel for entertainment. So make sure to hit that like and subscribe button, and let's get into our next college football video. Another college football video just for entertainment, just for fun. No, I am not predicting this to happen, nor do I think this will ever happen. But people bring up things that really make me think maybe there is a way, a possibility in an alternate reality, something like that this could happen. Just something to talk about that could be fun to think about. And who knows, maybe something like this can happen. What am I talking about? Well, somebody mentioned, well, what about group of 5 conferences that could be bumped up into Power 5 status? That is an interesting concept. And after looking at each conference and what teams they have versus what teams the Power 5 conferences have, it doesn't look good. The possibilities aren't really doable as far as it actually happening. But if these conferences actually did the things that I'm suggesting that they do, it could happen. And when I say it could happen, I'm talking like a 1% chance of happening. So first up, the conferences that absolutely have a 0% chance of that ever happening. First up, the MAC. Sorry, MAC fans, it's never going to happen. You have a 0% chance of ever becoming a power conference. Just enjoy MACtion, enjoy playing each other, enjoy your bowl games, because that's never going to happen. I think the MAC would be one of the conferences that would benefit if the group of 5 conferences actually split off, created their own playoffs and national championship. That way they would actually have a chance to get to the playoffs. Because as is right now, any member of the MAC, you don't have a chance to win a national championship, period. At least in the FCS, they have their own national championship, so they have a chance, right? The other conference is Conference USA. I also think that they have a 0% chance of ever becoming a power conference or ever being in the playoffs. No member of Conference USA will ever make the playoffs. I know that's depressing to think about, but facts are facts. You're in the same category as the MAC. You have to hope that eventually the group of 5 conferences split off and create their own playoffs and national championship. Otherwise, you don't have a chance. The next conference I want to talk about is the AAC. Does the AAC ever have a chance of becoming a Power 5 conference? Honestly, I would say no. Most recently, they lost UCF, Cincinnati, and Houston to the Big 12, but they went out and gained UTSA, North Texas, UAB, FAU, Rice, and Charlotte from Conference USA. And to be honest with you, I think gaining so many members from Conference USA actually hurt the chances of the AAC ever becoming a power conference. I think the AAC has a very low chance. They're oversaturated with bad to mediocre teams now because of those pickups from Conference USA. And don't get me wrong, that was a great move by those teams out of Conference USA. You needed to go to the AAC because Conference USA is not looking good right now. It's on life support. Why Liberty ever went to Conference USA, I don't know. That one baffles me. But the fact that you went out and got 6 teams from Conference USA, that actually might weaken your conference. So you're in the category with the MAC and Conference USA as far as hoping that eventually the group of 5 conferences split off and create their own playoffs and national championship. Otherwise, you never have a shot of making any type of playoffs or winning any type of national championship. But that brings me to the last 2 conferences. These 2 conferences made me think a little bit. The first conference is the Mountain West. Now, first off, the Mountain West needs the Pac-12 or the Big 12 to dissolve or get heavily depleted. And on top of that, the Mountain West would need to gain a substantial amount of teams from those 2 conferences. Not just one, I think they would need a combo of teams out of both of those conferences. On top of that, I think the Mountain West would need to shed some dead weight. The teams that I would suggest the Mountain West getting rid of in order to make room for the new members would be Wyoming, New Mexico, San Jose State, UNLV, Hawaii, and Nevada. So that means Boise State, Utah State, Air Force, Colorado State, Fresno State, and San Diego State would remain in the Mountain West, but then the Mountain West would have room to add members from the Pac-12 and the Big 12. Now, what I'm saying here is that the Mountain West needs to get rid of those members only if they have a shot of getting these other teams from the Pac-12 and the Big 12. So the teams that they should add after getting rid of those 6 teams would be Arizona, Arizona State, Colorado, and Utah out of the Pac-12. Strong brands, make sense regionally. And on top of that, you would add Kansas, Kansas State, Oklahoma State, Texas Tech, TCU, and Baylor. See what I mean? this is never going to happen, but it's the recipe for the Mountain West to get to a Power 5 conference status if that were to ever happen, which I don't think it will. This is just the recipe. I'm just giving you the recipe. I'm not saying it would ever happen. Just the recipe, guys. So get rid of dead weight and then add members from the Pac-12 and the Big 12, and yeah, you have a chance of becoming a power conference. And then finally, the Sun Belt. I think the Sun Belt definitely strengthened itself as far as being one of the best Group of 5 conferences right now. In fact, it might be the best Group of 5 conference because the AAC losing Cincinnati, UCF, and Houston and then adding a bunch of Conference USA members, they're not looking like a strong conference anymore. And the Sun Belt, I know they also added some Conference USA members, but they didn't lose their best brands. That's the biggest difference there. The AAC lost their biggest brands and then added Conference USA members. I think it's between the Sun Belt and the Mountain West as far as the best Group of 5 conference now. I think the AAC is now the third best Group of 5 conference, especially with the AAC losing UCF, Cincinnati, and Houston. So first up, I think the Sun Belt would also need to shed dead weight. I think they would need to get rid of Southern Miss, UL Monroe, Texas State, Arkansas State, Georgia Southern, and Old Dominion. See, if you keep too many of those lower tier teams, even if you add a bunch of bigger brands, you're still diluting your conference. So you got to get rid of some of that dead weight. So that means the remaining members would be James Madison, Coastal Carolina, Appalachian State, Marshall, Troy, South Alabama, and Louisiana. And just like the Mountain West, the Sun Belt would need to add members from Power 5 conferences, mostly from the ACC, but it wouldn't be bad to look in the Big 12 as well. So the teams that I would suggest the Sun Belt would need to add in order to become a power conference would be NC State and Wake Forest. So those are your two power brands from the North Carolina footprint. Georgia Tech, that gives you a power brand in the state of Georgia. Miami Hurricanes gives you a solid footprint in the state of Florida. And then adding Louisville, you're adding the state of Kentucky right there. Pitt gives you the state of Pennsylvania as far as a Power 5 team goes. And then adding the best brand out of the state of Virginia, in my opinion, that would be Virginia Tech. To go along with Miami, you could add UCF to solidify your footprint in the state of Florida. Or if you want another state, you could actually add Cincinnati instead of UCF. That way you're gaining a footprint in the state of Ohio. And finally, turning your attention to the Big 12 and adding West Virginia. Yeah, gaining a footprint in the state of West Virginia as far as a Power 5 brand. I know Marshall is in the state of West Virginia, but they're not Power 5. You want the better brand, which is West Virginia. And even though West Virginia and Marshall is not a rivalry, that would be a pretty big draw in the state of West Virginia if West Virginia played Marshall every year in the Sun Belt as a conference game. Hey, you've already added the rivals of West Virginia. Why not add West Virginia and make money off those rivalries? Those are some big-time rivalries. So yeah, I think adding West Virginia on top of those teams from the ACC, that would give the Sun Belt a legitimate chance of becoming a Power 5 conference. Will any of this stuff ever happen? No, it's not going to happen. I'm just giving you the recipe on how I think either the Mountain West or the Sun Belt could become a power conference. Otherwise, it's not happening. So I suggest that the Group of 5 conferences do indeed break off, create their own playoffs and their own national championship. Otherwise, it's never going to happen. And if you think about it, what's the point? If you have a 0% chance of even making any type of playoffs or national championship, what is the point? So I do think eventually that's exactly what happens. So y'all let me know in the comments section. Number one, do you agree with me that the Group of 5 conferences should indeed split off and create their own national championship and playoffs? Number two, do you think the unthinkable ever happens and one of these Group of 5 conferences become a power conference? That's all I got for this show. Like and subscribe if you haven't already, and I'll see you on my next show.